How do you get used to the notion of being a passerby on this earth? Ordinary humans do not have to get used to that. We have the built-in protection layer, that safety cork in our brain that separates the realization of being mortal from flooding down upon us. It allows us to breathe the air. It lets us exhibit this extraordinary yet sacred carelessness, the mental block that denies the laws of life on a primitive emotional level even for the keenest scholars. The indecipherable tetragrammaton is shown to us in every step we take, in every cup of Colombian coffee we sip, in every word of wisdom that we collect from books. Every second we bypass the sinister tick-tock and hear the name of the god being whispered into our ears, and yet we, humans, turn around and whistle shame, shame, deceiving our own self-cognizance. And that, as Senor Borges called it, is the true blessing. Those who possess the name of the divine being are doomed. Knowledge is madness. Knowledge is inexistence. Knowledge of death is worse than death. We sat in his hotel room until early morning, the two luminous and the doomed souls. Our casual exchange of words was amplified by the ticking of the clock. It was dawning when I noticed Borges nodding in his sleep. His left hand was still resting on the cane, and his pupils were shuffling behind shut eyelids. Borges was dreaming. So must have I. As I was exiting the foyer of the hotel, I hid behind the column and looked around the street. It was empty. Bleak light of street lamps drew strange crossbeams on pavements. Early October leaves were gyring in closed circles like witches around the fire. I was looking around, hoping to not see him. He wasn't there, but he was. I felt his presence not very far from me. Muscat orchards. They resonate inside like echoes of a guitar string heard from a deep alcove. But nothing particular comes to mind. I'm trying to shift focus from one object to another, but my nomad memory is lost in endless labyrinths. You took my memories away from me, didn't you? Wait, mortal. Wait 5 more minutes and you will know the answer, I hear in my brain. He is talking to me now. I can see how the long uphill walk is wearing him out. But what is pain and tiredness when you're crossing the finish line? As Borges warned me, do not ever come close to him. Do not look him straight in the eyes. He will always be near. His watch will be ticking. If he attempts to catch on, run. But he will forever follow. In a way, he will be like a shadow of you. And I ran, and he wandered. I evaded. He followed. He came too close to me in my hotel room on the second day after my long night in Borges' quarters. The fool in me still thought that escaping from him would be as easy as moving into a new flat or checking into a hotel, so I did just that. It was some shabby hotel minutes from my work where I decided to spend a few nights just to think things through. That evening, and I remember every minute of it, was my first face-to-face encounter with him. My room, B6, was on the basement level. As I stumbled through the dark hotel corridor, trying to find the key to my room, I felt his presence, but my ignorant foolishness dismissed all mental warnings and turned the keys. As the door hinge squeaked, I took my first step into the hotel room. Street-level window was casting 2 thick yellow streaks of light on the floor carpet. I smelled dust and spider webs. He was in my room, sitting on the edge of my bed with a rope in his hand. A thin white blanket was covering his head like a shroud around a statue. I stood in stupor like a paralyzed insect. An avalanche of sweat gushed from every pore of my body. With hand twisted behind my back, I was feverishly trying to twist the doorknob. He got up from the bed with a groan, and he took a step towards me. Hand too sweaty to turn the knob. Open it. Open. He grabbed my wrist. Open. Run. The stretch corridor of the hotel basement flashed like random shots of a silent movie. Run. B5. B2. B1. Run. Staircase. Up. Exit. Run. Your time is coming, Fernandez Agustin Navarro. A whisper crawled into my ears. Coming. Coming. Hissed the wind. I ran until my legs gave in. I fell down somewhere in the outskirts of the town, passing out in an alley amidst rubbish until sunup. My madness has begun. In the days following my first face-to-face encounter with Kiestas, I moved out of my London flat. I had some savings, enough to tramp town to town, continent to continent, doing temp jobs here and there, sometimes sleeping on streets. He was right behind me. Even if I didn't see him for a month, I knew he would soon catch on. It would be only a matter of time for him to pop up somewhere. On the opposite side of the street, in the next car over on the subway, or madly prying through shutters of windows in the house across. My attempts to speak to Borges were futile. How does the blind master live with this curse, I wondered? How does he manage to evade a sinister follower? I had questions, far more than I had anticipated, but Senor Borges was already on the other side of the globe. I wrote him letters. He never replied. I tried calling hotels where he stayed. Unavailable. The books that he wrote, I bought all of them in attempts to find hidden meanings. What if he had secret messages for me inside his writings? The Book of Sand, Dr. Brody's report. I even searched his earlier writings, analyzed every word. Pointless. Futile. Until 1983, Shakespeare's Memory, his final book as it turned out to be. I was somewhere in Eastern Europe when I bought the book. Immediately, I began my scrupulous study, letter by letter, page by page, analyzing every space and every punctuation sign. And that's when I found it. The answer. The answer was the story itself, the story that did not require much study or decryption. All I had to do was read it. I knew I had to come face to face with Kiestis like Borges did, but not before having to go through the life of an exile. That's what Borges had intended me to do. Such was his final and only message to me embodied within his last story. Story written for public, but intended for my eyes only. The story was that the protagonist receives memories of Shakespeare, memories that overwhelm him, overpowering his own. He forgets modern-day cars and engines, instead remembering faces and names from some distant past. Memories he has never known, memories that belong to another man. In a way, he will be like a shadow of you, Borges told me that night. Slowly but surely, my shadow was becoming me. That's why I can only vaguely remember you, my childhood home, him or me. No more running. It ends here. Few more minutes, I say to myself as I look back at the watch. There he is. He's out of breath, beaten, tired and bent by the weight of his own arid body. One last push, old man, and we will meet. I'm hiding behind the rock. His footsteps on gravel and sand, I can tell them from any other footsteps in the world. His breathing, wheezing and crackling. I'm counting to 5. He knows where I am, but he is too tired to take that last step. Let me take that step for you. I'm staring at his face, wrinkled like leaves of an ancient scroll. Time's up, Kiestis, I am telling him. He's not fighting back, and my Swiss blade finds a comfy spot below his Adam's apple. I'm going to finish him now. Popping sounds are coming out from his flabby throat. What are you trying to tell me, old man? Let me hear your last words. I am easing the pressure to let him talk, but the sounds that come out are not words, but laughter. You are confused, he says. You've got it all wrong. Let me help you understand. I'm letting him sit up. He is coughing blood, one wrong move and he's dead. He wipes blood off his lips and nods in understanding. All my life I have followed you, he begins slowly. It's a miracle. I've come this far and lived this long. Ever since I left Cordoba, I was a ticking time bomb. I was diagnosed as suicidal. Doctor after doctor, therapy, specialist, prescription, yoga. I've tried them all. Some helped for a while, and then disease subsided, but then rolled back with a new, stronger wave. It's this disease that nests here, and he points to his head, forcing me to look for a way to end my own life. It all began in London on that morning when I was sitting on the bench in the middle of that square, feeling the disease gnawing on my brain. My first attempt was in that hotel, room B6. I sat on the bed in the dark room for hours with a rope in my hand and a blanket over my head. Death opened the door and stood above me in the darkness of the room. Oh, how I wanted my pain to end. But it was not meant to be. Not then, not there. I had to live on. Ever since that day, it was a cat and mouse game between us. I chased death, and death would always slip away. Until now. He pauses, rubbing his flabby neck, then points his finger down the valley and continues. I was born in that house. I remember every moment of my childhood, my parents, my toys, my school. I remember playing hide and seek with my cousins in Muscat Gardens and dozing off to Sunday clergy in that white chapel. I remember Eastern rugs being washed on the street and the smell of grapes. My name is Fernandez Auguste Navarro, and you have no true name, but they call you Kiestis, the one who wanders. Filaments of scorching infernos have been igniting all over me. The fire sets off inside my eyelids, spreading over to all facial pores and trickling down my body. Lies! Imbecile lies, I roar. Look at me, he says. I am an old man, and you? Still young and strong as you will always be. You have not aged. Now think more. What do you remember of your childhood? Shakespearean memories of random sounds and smells is all you've gained from me. Master Borges knew who you were. He cracked you and then he tricked you. He made you think you were me. That was his way of evading you, by not revealing you the truth until his final breath, final book, final story. You are the one who wanders, and those memories you have, those are my memories. And now that I have told you who you really are, you must finally finish me. I have heard enough of his fibs. I am throwing my knife away. I shall not require any blades to finish him. With hands clenched around his thin neck, I'm strangling him. I hear him squeal as the grip tightens. I feel the crackling of neck bones between my thumbs. I see him gulping the air in warm convulsions. He looks peaceful. I sit on his chest and watch his last breath picked up by the wind, carried down the valley to the gardens, passing by the white chapel and the house where he grew up. The scorching wind of Andalusia is pouring sunlight onto his face, toying with his eyelashes, pounding on cheeks, and gyrating through his hair. He must have missed the smell of the valley and the ripening softness of muscat fluff glistening in the air. I'm rewinding my wristwatch and walking downhill along the wavy trail, my thumb still sore from killing. I'm taking small steps sideways. Once I reach El Jardinero Road, I will hop on the first bus, and from there I will travel west or north. Destination will never matter. Anywhere is where the roads take me. Me. The one who wanders.